Hi, my name is Samantha and I'm from Ireland and I have port wine stain.
Alright, so tell me about yourself. How would you describe yourself? And what is your present occupation?
I am presently a stay-at-home mum. I used to have a full-time job before I had my daughter. My feelings about myself would, in the past, I would have had absolutely no confidence, um, because of the fact that I had been bullied for many years. But in the last few years, since I explained to people how I felt, I have started to feel more confident in my own appearance. And I feel that I wouldn't say grown into myself, but I feel that I have become a better person than I was a couple of years ago because I'm able to tell people how I feel.
That's because you're not worried about what people think because of what you say or react to you. Is that it as well?
Yeah, no, not anymore. I think 5 years ago, yes, absolutely, I would have been very offended because I held a lot of emotion back for many years and I never really expressed how people really made me feel. So when somebody would have something negative to say to me, I would really take it at heart at how I looked. But I have since learned that not everybody understands what a port wine stain is, that they think maybe it is a bruise and they don't realise that it is a port wine stain. So when they look at you, they see, oh, purple on your face, around your eye. Oh, did that person get a thump? And sometimes they just need to be explained. No, actually, it's a port wine stain. And I suppose from what happened to me 5 years ago has taught me an awful lot that people really do need to understand what a port wine stain is.
I agree because that's all it is. It's just a port wine state. But
Mm,
people just don't know what it is.
exactly.
Alright, moving on. You enjoy being a stay-at-home mom?
It has ups and downs. I enjoy being here for my children, but there are times where I would like to be back at work. It has its challenges, but I don't regret the decision of being at home with them, because I get to listen to their problems and listen to how their day went, and I'm here for them, and I get to cook and I get to, you know, help them with things. And basically, I'm their doctor, their mother, their chef, their cleaner.
It's a
their
pretty
pick.
big full-time job to be a mom.
It's a full-time job. It really is. And like from they get home from school, it's just non-stop from they get in the front door. But I wouldn't change it for the world. Like I'd never say, oh, I'd love to be back at work. There are times where yes, I'd love to because I'd like to have adult conversation. But I wouldn't give up my job of being a stay-at-home mother for the world.
Yeah, I mean, being a domestic engineer, I mean, it really is that you just know when you have to do so many things. It's a big
Yeah,
job. All right.
multitask.
Yes, that requires talent too. If you see me looking down, I just I'm looking at my notes here. All right. What is your most favorite way to spoil yourself or unwind?
My favorite way to unwind or spoil myself. God, that's actually a very tough question. I don't think I've actually unwound in a long time. I suppose crocheting would be one way. Going out for walks. Um, something that I really enjoy a lot is watching the sunset.
Agreed.
I think it gives great kind of sense of meaning to the day, and that another day is going to start, and that you kind of feel that sense of peace. Um, that would be, I think, one of my favorite things to do. And we don't always get to see a sunset here because it's normally
No.
very cloudy. So it's when it happens, it's quite good to see it. Um, Something that I enjoy is probably just crocheting. But generally, I think sometimes spending time with my kids and just sitting there listening to their conversations can be a time to unwind too. So it's really about what goes on in my life and at that moment in time.
Alright, great. Sunset is probably one of the best things in the world to watch and experience.
Mm, very much so.
TV. What current TV shows are you binging on?
Oh, I've been I binged on The Crown.
You're still watching that?
No, that's just over. I have to find something now else to binge on.
Alright. Nothing else you want to move on to? Nothing else?
I am thinking of going on. I've watched one episode of Suits, and I am hoping to actually binge on that now over the next couple of days if I get time. It seemed quite interesting and something that I like about because I done criminology. Um, I like the fact that it is about legal things and the law. So it got my attention.
No, I already know the answer to one of these things, but what is your current favorite artist or band?
Duran Duran.
Yeah. Alright, favorite food and favorite place to dine.
Oh, hmm. My favorite food would have to be Indian.
Indian food. Do you
I
have a
really
favorite
love.
restaurant?
I do, but it's actually in Italian. It's called the Pizzeria in Drogheda. I love to order Indian food. I love to make Indian food, but I love to go out to eat in an Italian restaurant. So, it's just one of those nice. It's kind of like not too heavy on you when you go out, and you can sit down and relax. Where I find an Indian meal is quite heavy, and you just want to, you know,
Go home
go
and
to sleep
sleep?
after it.
Yes. Macawell trick, as we call it.
Yeah.
Okay. But when you go out to dine at the restaurant, pick up a few groceries, what is the average reaction to you?
Some people they'll look and they'll take a second look, and they'll just go on with their daily business. When I go out to a restaurant, I normally have my makeup on. I don't go to a restaurant without my makeup on. Not because I am covering it up, it's simply because I'm dressing myself up to go out. And I just feel by putting my makeup on, I'm feeling dressed from head to toe. But I only wear my makeup when I do go to restaurants or bars. Everywhere else, I don't put makeup on. I expect people to accept me for who I am and what I look like. And if they don't, well, I can't do anything about that. But if they do say, ask me a question, or if they stare at me too long, and I can often see that wonder in their face, I just go, oh, it's a port wine stain. And then they go, oh, and then
That's it.
they're moving on. It's just, you often catch one person that'll just keep looking. And you know that in the question, they're having lots of questions in their head, and you just really want to say to them, it's okay to ask, but you haven't asked, so I'm just going to tell you. But I have no issues walking down the street with no makeup on whatsoever.
You're comfortable with how you look with the
Yeah.
makeup. Alright, that's great. How people react to you, is it different now than in the past? Or is it about the same?
Very much so. Very much so. When I was growing up, I got very much bullied about my appearance. I wibbly wobbly fingers, as they call them. They were like jelly, and nobody wanted to hold my hand. I was called snot face. I was called Dogface. I was spat at when my daughter was in a pram. I was wheeling her, and I was called an ugly dog. 5 years ago, you know, I was in a queue in a shop, and was two ladies having a conversation, and they were saying right beside me, not even asking me, as though as I was completely invisible, and they said, "Oh, look at that poor girl's face. She's got an awful burn in her face," but they didn't stop once to ask me what it was, which really offended me, because they spoke about me like I was completely invisible.
Yeah, as if something is wrong with you and you can't answer a question.
Yeah. So I just kind of felt that, during all those years, that I really didn't have much confidence in myself, would say, in the early years, right up until even into my 20s. I would walk along with my head down and always my hair like this. I would just walk that way. And now when I go out, it's hair behind the ear, walk tall, and that's just the way I go. And, as I said, 5 years ago was the change in me. It was when those two people in that shop said that right beside me and treated me like I was invisible. And that's when my life actually started to really turn around. And I started to explain to people, when I wrote a blog, what actually happened. It wasn't something that I wrote for people to read. It was basically an explosion of thoughts of how I felt all over the years, and why people should treat others like that, and why can they not ask questions like, why do you have to be treated like you're different all of the time? Like, human, we've got hearts, we're the same as everybody else. Just because we've got a different color on our face doesn't make us less of a person. And so that blog that I wrote then just took off, and I had friends, very close friends, saying we never knew this, because I couldn't speak to them about it. I couldn't tell anybody how I felt, because I wasn't comfortable with myself. And so I think finally being able to feel comfortable about yourself was that blog. And then I was able to talk to my friends about it, and then they started to understand, because they did notice that I used to walk around with my head down, and if somebody asked me a question, the hair would automatically come like this. So it has been, a positive change in my life.
Or was it, do you think that your friends, even though they noticed it, they didn't want to ask you anything because they were afraid that they would make you feel self-conscious?
No, my close friends didn't feel like that at all. What they said to me was they never noticed it, because when they looked at me, they just saw me. They never saw my birthmark, and which was fascinating, because they said that to me, and I see my birthmark every time I look in the mirror. Every time I get up in the morning and I wash my face, I see it. And I could never understand that remark that they made to me to this day, as I see it. I see it all of the time. But they just looked past that, and they just assumed that I did feel comfortable in my own skin, but I wasn't. And then they started to understand, and then they asked me questions, and why, what causes it. And I was able to explain to them that it was blood cells that didn't properly form during pregnancy, when my mother was pregnant on me. And they were like, wow, that's what happened. And I was like, yeah, they just didn't form properly. They just didn't connect. And so they just, sat here. And they didn't ask anything else. That was it. Where I find little children, my niece recently said to me, oh, she says, what's that? She pointed at her own cheek. She said, what's that? And I said, that's a birthmark. I said, I was born with that. And she's like this, because she's only 5. And I said, no, I said, it doesn't hurt at all. And I said, I've always had this since I was a baby. And I didn't get to explain to her about the magic that my birthmark has. And so I said it to her mother, and her mother explained to her. And I said, just please tell her, I said, about the magic of my birthmark. I said, when it's really cold outside, I'm able to tell because I stick my head outside the door in this section and my birthmark will go really, really blue. And I said, when it's warm, it goes really pink. And when it's okay, I said, it looks a little bit red and purple. And I said, it's a magical birthmark, I said. And so she said, she explained that to her. So she's quite happy now that her auntie has a magical birthmark.
That is so cute. That's Alice, right?
Yeah.
So cute. Oh, speaking of kids, somebody gave you a doll with a birthmark on it when you were a child. Would that have helped you growing up?
No, I don't know because I've seen those dolls and I actually don't like them. Um, I kind of at the time I saw them and I went, oh gosh, I says they brought dolls out with birthmarks now. For some kids, it would help. I can see, the positive side on it. But for me, I had all my own dolls when I was little, and I suppose when I looked at them, they weren't. To me, they were the same as me when I was small. I didn't see the difference when I looked at the doll. But I think if had been given a doll when I was little with a birthmark on it, and I looked at all my other dolls, then I would see the difference. And for me personally, it wouldn't have worked, I don't think. For other children, I can't speak for other kids. I'm sure it probably worked for them,
But for you,
but I don't know.
I don't really think so. It would have worked. Alright, well, you've already kind of answered this, but you are now, obvious part is you're okay with people asking you about your birthmark.
Mhm. Yeah, I don't mind at all. I say it's part of me. I was asked one time, would I, get rid of it?
Mm-hmm.
It was just basically true. You're getting laser treatment. Will laser get rid of it? Would you get rid of it? If you went for a laser, like, would you say to them, I want it gone? And I went, no, it's part of me. Because I've often done the thing and kind of looked to see what it looked like on the other side, and I've done the little paint brushes on photographs and stuff. And this is who I am. This is me. Because without that, that's not me. And this is me. And as I said, that's how I've grown into myself. Because I now accept the fact this is me. And I don't have an issue anymore.
You are Samantha,
Like
and you have a birthmark.
Like I do get laser treatment, but only laser treatment to reduce the lumps that are on my face, which is very important, and that must be controlled. But other than that, no.
Oh, I know that you've been spat on and you've mentioned that. What is the worst thing that you've been called?
The worst thing I've been called, oh God.
Worst things you have been called?
I think dog face had to be the worst out of everything. Snot face was bad, but dog face had to be the worst. It was when I was in secondary school by a girl who was at the same school as me, said it to me in the street, shouted it at me, and left me very self-conscious. And I was kind of very afraid then, kind of going to school, because was that what everybody else thought of me? And is that how everybody else saw me? And I think that had been the worst.
No, you said that you shouted this at you across the street. Did you have any previous interactions with her? Have you ever spoken to her?
Oh, we spoke at school. It was she would be in a similar class than me, or maybe we might cross classes. There was never any bad feeling or anything like that.
She just
it was just out of the blue. I had been coming home from my auntie's house, and she was coming down the street. I was walking up, and she just said it, and I was really stunned. I'll always see her. I'll always have that day in my head. That day in my head never goes away. But I have seen her on in our town over the last few years, and I I'm not a dog face.
No, you're not. You're definitely not a dog face. Definitely not. Like, the dog face aside, when you were spat on, what immediately went through you when that happened?
I felt, well, when I got spat on, first of all, I was absolutely disgusted. I cried. I felt, what would be the word to use? Dirty. Um, and I felt like I was abused on the street, in public, in front of so many people, and I was so embarrassed. This person was with another guy. They never met me. They never knew me. First thing they saw, they just did it. And I was pushing my baby girl in a pram when they done that. I was so embarrassed. I felt exposed.
Mm-hmm.
And when I got home, I didn't want to go back out the door again. I didn't want to be treated like that. And I was very upset for quite a while over it.
That when you put up that blog about that incident, I'm still angry that somebody would react to anybody like that. That's one of the few things that blows my mind. Why would you spit on somebody? That's
Yeah.
one is just disgusting, and I think it speaks volumes about the type of person who would do that. I don't know if I could handle that, to be honest. I would probably hit somebody. So maybe you handle it better than I might have done. I don't know, but that incident, as I said, I'm still angry about it, and it didn't even happen to me. It's crazy.
I explained to friends of mine at the time, male friends of mine at the time, what happened. And they said, Sam, you're better than them. They're just scumbags of the earth. Don't let them get to you.
Mm-hmm.
And I heard their words. I listened to what they said. What my friend said to me. But it was still very hard to let that sink in, because this happened to me on a public street when I was with my baby girl. And I just really did feel exposed that time. It wasn't, they wouldn't treat an animal like that, or would they? I don't know what way they treat an animal, but they treated me like that day. It was terrible. It was really, really, and I'm so glad that my daughter was only a baby and that she has no recollection of it.
Of that happened, yeah. Terrible. Mankind. I don't know. Alright, now that you're more comfortable with yourself, have you ever been angry at having a birthmark before that?
I think in my teens I was quite angry. I kept questioning why I had it. Why did this happen to me? It was like, I didn't know anybody else that had birthmarks. And then I was about 18, I think. I met one other girl in our town that had a birthmark. And then when I was 21, I met another girl. It was only because my mother heard a piece on the radio about going to Bromsgrove Clinic in Birmingham for treatment. That she alerted me to it and put my name down. And I headed off to Birmingham for treatment with 21 other people from Ireland. And I realised then, hang on, my birthmark's not as bad as everybody else's. There are other people that's birthmarks are worse. Some people have it on their back. Some people have a birthmark on their face, on their hands, on their feet. Some people have a birthmark from their neck down. I have a birthmark here. I can cover my birthmark with makeup if I choose to, but others couldn't. And I think that's when I realised that, I wasn't the only one, and it just didn't happen to me, that there are a load of other people that it happened to. And that, yes, we have a different colour. And I like to think of it in the way that Michael Jackson says black and white. I had to go, you know, I'm white and purple.
Not like everybody else, definitely. Do you ever wish that your birthmark was in a different place on your body where it could have been hidden?
I don't. I suppose maybe so. Years ago, I haven't really reflected on it much over the years. Probably when I was smaller, I probably wished it wasn't there at all. As I said, like, you know, why me? So maybe at one point of that time, I may have thought that why couldn't it have been, you know, under my arm or, you know, my backside where nobody saw it or somewhere. But you know, it's there.
So you had some understanding of what your birthmark was when you were growing up?
No.
No?
Absolutely no. Nobody explained what it was. I was just told it was a port wine stain. Nobody understood what it was. My mother didn't know what it was. It was only when I started doing my own research in it in my 20s and 30s that I found out what caused it. My mother thought it came from the fact that she ate plums, and she was lying on her side for too long, and that was the reason. She blamed that because nobody explained to her in 1972 that you know it was just that my cells didn't form together, because I don't think anybody then knew what happened either. Like I still get doctors when I go to hospital appointments asking me, you know, what's that in your face? I go, it's a port wine stain, doctor.
You have to educate doctors. It might sound crazy to some, but we do have to tell doctors what
Yeah.
port wine stains are. Is this like that for now? Time to come, one day, I think there'll be a lot more knowledge about birthmarks within the medical field. Sooner the better, I think. You mentioned the blends that you have on your birthmark. What happens to you if one of those get cut or something?
And they can bleed very heavily, which I have to get ice on. But what I've had done before, I had one here, which bled very badly, and I had crystals of ice injected into it, and so it's never happened again.
Oh, so that's fixed,
I've had
permanently, or is it at a temporary?
it's somewhere along there. There's crystals of ice. When I feel it, it's hard. It's like a hard lump inside. I got that done 19 years ago. A week before I got married, I was at my desk and work, and my hair was on my face, and I went like this, and I tipped it. And I didn't know my face was bleeding, and it was my colleague in work that said, Sam, your face is bleeding. Thankfully, the laser centre was beside me in Dublin. I rang them, and they said, oh my God, I'm not at home, I'm at work, I have no ice. What do I do? And he said, just come over. And I went over, and he said, okay, this is what I'm going to do. And he injected it with crystals of ice.
I haven't heard about that.
So it was, I've had many bleeds. Like I had a huge one up there where it was a massive lump that was taken away, and I still had this very little kind of hair along this side, and that used to bleed, and that actually grew down this way, and it was growing into my eye, so they had to remove it. And I have another lump there somewhere. Sometimes it comes out really, really. I feel it. It's there. It's there. There's a little lump there. And sometimes if I'm feeling a little bit stressed, it gets bigger. And it starts to pulse. So I've had a lot of lumps removed, over the last few years. But it was the ones that would bleed that I was always told, get ice immediately, put it on it. But I never heard of crystals of ice until that happened. I was like, oh, I'm getting married next week. This can't happen. So, yeah, that worked. And I've never looked back on that.
That was a pretty good wedding present then.
Yeah.
All right. Do you have problems with getting treatment for your other bloods on your face?
What you mean?
Is it accessible, easily accessible to you to have the laser treatment or to have the blood?
Only if I go private. It's very hard for me to go public because of the fact that I went public when I was younger and I came off the list to go to Bromsgrove Clinic in Birmingham. It was very difficult for me to get back onto the list. So we decided that we would go private, and I've been going private for years. But I did get my name put back on a list, and I'm still on a waiting list this last 4 years. And I haven't been contacted. So anytime there's something wrong, I have to make a private appointment. I have to pay the consultant's fee. It can be anything from €80 to €150. It depends on what's actually going to happen. If I need to have the lumps removed, I have to see a consultant. Then I do have private insurance, but that covers that. But if I have to pay the consultant has to be paid up front. It can be claimed back. You get a percentage back. You don't get it all back. And if things happen, like I needed to get the lumps here removed, and I have other issues going on here at the moment, which I have to go and get seen to. That's not a simple case of just ringing up and saying I need an appointment. You have to make sure that you have the cash there to do it. And that's the only way I can actually have my treatment, because on the public sector, I'm still on a waiting list. And I don't think it's very fair that, I think anybody that has a port wine stain should not be on any waiting list. We should be seen to, because we've been their patient since we were born. And if we do come off their list and we do go back on it, then they should appreciate the fact that, look, that didn't go away. She still has that.
Because for us it is a lifetime of treatment.
Yeah, it's a lifetime of treatment. It's not like
know that now it's a lifetime thing.
Yeah.
I know you're comfortable with your birthmark, but would you say that you love your birthmark?
No. I'd never say that. It's not a lovable thing. It's not something. It's because it needs so much tender care and love. It has to be treated and looked after, and you have to be careful when you go out in the sun to wear your factor 50, and any lumps or bumps that come on or any changes, you have to make sure that you have finance there to go and get it looked at. No, I wouldn't love it. It's part of me. It's who I am, but I wouldn't love it. Mm-hmm. It's an expensive love, if you'd like to say it like that. I'd rather go out and spend €120 on something nice in a nice clothing shop,
a nice pair of shoes. Fancy.
Yeah, nice. Oh, definitely pair of shoes.
Now, your family, do they ever get upset with the way that people react to you?
Yes, my cousins definitely did. I grew up with 2 cousins which were like sisters to me, and they definitely would get annoyed if somebody said something. They would retaliate verbally. They would never let anybody away with anything. Even my own daughter.
Yeah.
Yeah. She was asked one time, "What's that in your mum's face?" When she was going to it was brownies and Girl Guides and stuff. And girl pointed out, and she was like, "Oh, what's that in your mum's face?" The little girl turned around and she went, "That's a port wine stain birthmark." And she goes, "You're so nosy." And I was like, it's okay. I said, she just wants to know. Yeah. But yeah, no, my cousins have definitely, they've stood up for me, because they would have been around me more so with other children rather than my parents being around me. It was my cousins that would have been around me, so they would have been the ones. I suppose another way, if you look at it as well, I didn't have the confidence to stand up for myself, and so they did. So what I lacked, they took on that responsibility and that role.
At least somebody was around you to say something.
Mm.
What is your proudest achievement to date?
My proudest achievement to date has to be the fact that it's definitely my children. Um, when I was quite young, I never thought I'd ever get married, and I never thought I'd ever have children, and I always believed that nobody'd ever want me. And okay, I could get really upset now.
Okay.
Um,
Can I make me cry?
yeah. And I I met my husband, and he loved me for who I am, and I had my children, and I'm so very proud of everything that they are. And you know, like I have degrees, I have diplomas, but my biggest achievement is my children, because they have grown into two amazing people,
They
and
are.
every day I'm just so proud of them. And they don't look at somebody and, you know, with judgment. They they know that I went through it, and they really appreciate everybody else. Like, if they saw a person walking down the street with one leg, they wouldn't call him the one leg man. If they saw somebody struggling to cross the road, they'd help them. So they have the most kind and compassionate hearts, and I think that definitely is my achievement in life.
I think you have come a long way from what you're telling me and how I've known you over the years. And I would say you have done so well. Absolutely well. Well, one last question I have for you. If I ever came to Ireland, would you take me to your favorite pub to drink and eat?
Absolutely, you'd have to come to Clark's.
Parks, that's the place to be in Ireland.
Absolutely, 100%. It's a really old pub, really old fashioned. It's got so much character, and it's great atmosphere. And there's one thing about that place. We've been there for many years. We used to go there before we ever had children. Great times in it. And everybody has a say, and everybody has an opinion. And but you're never looked at or looked down at. You're a person, and it's a great bar. It's well known.
So Clark's it is. They have Guinness,
Clark's,
right?
yeah. First drink in there. Have to get you a pint of Guinness now. I don't drink Guinness.
I do, so that's not a problem. Alright, Sam, thank you so much for taking the time and opening
Not
up
all.
for this
Alrighty.
series. I can't thank you enough, really. Maybe when I do get to Ireland, I'll buy you a non-alcoholic beer or whatever for you. I really appreciate the time. And so, thank you very much.
No bother. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye.